listen up. Y'all, it's the queen of automation, Megan Donnelly, here to give you inspiration. Founders and business owners gather round. I'ma show you how to build systems that'll astound. Streamline your processes, no need for...
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Queen of Automation podcast, where we talk about why technology is only good when it works and how I help you make it work. Today is going to be another really fun, exciting conversation because I have with me Phyllis Winters. And yes, she is a member in Brand Belt because all of my guests are members in Brand Belt these days. But she is very near and dear to my heart because she overlaps with what we do as well. And I can't wait for this conversation. She is an AI and automation strategist, which is right up my alley. She helps people build out CRMs and AI and automation integrations and funnels and all sorts of fun stuff like that. But I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you about what she's working on these days because she's such a cool person and vibrant personality, and I feel like we bring, a little bit of vibrance to the tech world. Wouldn't you say, Phyllis? Yeah?
I definitely agree. Yes. When I started decades ago, I was the only girl in the room. So,
Right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing like showing up and being like, hey, I'm here to handle tech stuff. And they look at you like, but you're a girl. It's like, yeah, well, get over it. Anyway, tell everybody where you're calling from and then obviously enhance what I said a little bit more and tell everybody what you're working on these days.
Okay. First of all, thank you for having me, Megan. And I am a member of Brand Build and I love the community. And anyone's listening who's not in the community, please consider joining because it really is a great community where people are actively willing and able to help each other. And it's just, and you learn a lot. So it's just like a win-win-win. So I'm very happy with the community. So I am actually
testimonial, by the way. I'm going to clip that, use it as a testimonial. It'll be fantastic.
Okay.
All right. Awesome.
All right. That's all good. So I am actually calling from Northern Nevada in the Sierra Nevada mountains near Lake Tahoe, which when I was 23 and was driving cross country, we ended up in Lake Tahoe and without thinking it could ever come true, I said to myself, I want to live here someday. I just want to live. And it's been, 30 plus years, but here I am. Just to say, young people out there, yeah, those dreams actually do come true. So that's where I live. And I look out the mountains and out the window, I see the mountains. They're like 11,000 feet. We live at like 4,700 feet. So I'm in the mountains and I love it. And I love the freshness. I love the clear air. I love being able to go to Lake Tahoe. And that kind of leads into where I have evolved to my business now. For all the decades leading up to this move, I was working in brick and mortar businesses and I was the tech lady, but I'm also a CPA. I'm also a database programmer and I was a management consultant with Pete Marwick. So I would get clients and they all came like from one of my clients, either at a convention or on the golf course or at an event and whining about some problem they were having. And my client would say, oh, you need to talk to Phyllis. So it just happened that way for 27 years, almost 30 years. I never ran an ad. I never did any marketing. It just happened by word of mouth. Because with my cross-disciplinary background, I was able to address their management problems, their accounting problems, their IT problems, their software problems, their programming problems. And back in the day, I had many manufacturing clients that had factories with machines making things, and they had raw material and work in progress and inventory and this and that. And they would do their thing. And at the end of the day, the machine would spit out a little report of everything they did. And somebody would run down the hall to accounting and type it in. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. And I would write a program that would connect those things. So that's the history that I come from. And now into the online world, the big stumbling block that I hit was obviously nobody needs manufacturing systems and nobody needs all the other systems that I was used to in the online world. So I sampled and suffered like my clients do when I first started, because like, what's a funnel? What's a CRM? What is all of this magical stuff that happens online? What's social media? How, I just didn't know it. So in a way, I think it was God giving me a taste of the medicine that my clients get all the time, which is I'm really good at what I do, but all of this stuff confuses the heck out of me. And I just get lost and I lose my confidence and I lose traction. And so I lived it, which you wouldn't think as a tech person that I'd be able to say, I hear you, I've been there, but I really have. So that helps me interact with my clients, because even though I have always been in tech, I did suffer that, oh my God, I don't know what any of this stuff is. So now what I do because of all of that is I am a combination of a coach and a consultant. A consultant does the analysis, the strategy, the systems, the structure, the implementation, all of that, the things. But then I'm also a coach, because many times my clients come to me with a tech problem. And what it really is they don't really know their niche. They've never done any market research. They don't really know their ideal client. They don't have an offer that anybody's really going to want to pay for. They don't have a sales strategy. So because of my management consulting background and other things that I've done in my life with education, I help them with all of that stuff. So I help them get the clarity, get the strategy, and then build the funnel that gives them the perfect client journey for their clients, from before they know them, before they're even aware that they exist, to where they are a client. And then the system that we build helps them deliver a delightful experience so that their clients become raving fans and actually turn into part of their marketing. So that, in a very huge nutshell, is what I do.
You are amazing, first of all, because it's very rare that I get to talk to someone like myself that has lived it and breathed it. And it's two totally different worlds. The opposite, I'm a little bit of on the opposite side of things, because I started out in the online world, and I won't even pretend to figure out what the age difference is, but in my 20s, I started out as a front-end developer and user experience designer. So when tech started really taking off, I was building the lipstick on a pig, if you will, right? Like, I was building the front end experience that the customers and consumers and whoever the users were experiencing, and then coding it behind the scenes. And so I got to live it too, because I got to live through all of the brokenness, right? Like, it was the Microsoft ages when now I'm dating myself. I was building for Microsoft Explorer, which is like the worst Internet Explorer was the worst browser in the entire world to code anything for, because it doesn't do anything, right? And so it's funny, because I don't feel like the people who are in tech now, even women, men, whatever, who are in tech now, don't get it, because they never had to build on that stuff. They never had to build on something that was already broken before you even showed up to the door, right? And it's crazy. So it's really cool to hear your background, because manufacturing is still a hot mess.
And it always will be, I'm convinced.
It's so antiquated, and the problem, I think, and we'll just jump right into it, and I would love to hear your take on this, because the problem with manufacturing, even still today, usually, okay, first of all, manufacturing is huge, right? Like, if you own a $1 million, billion-dollar manufacturing company, it costs you millions upon millions upon millions to change one process, right? So then it just becomes, nah, we're not going to do that. We're just going to keep doing it this way, because it's going to cost us millions and money and time.
And they're very afraid and this, what bothers me a lot, and I literally heard it in a meeting this week. My people, changing this will just freak them out. And I'm like, no, they are like bitching and complaining about the way it is. And if you change it, it's kind of like, if you build it, they will come. They will love it. They are tired of it. And you're right. They haven't changed it literally in decades. And now some of it I understand. Like you say, if you have a $1 billion company, you've got $1 million pieces of equipment and machinery that has been made specifically to you and your product and your process. You can't replace that. Eventually you'll have to, but you can't just swap them in and out. So you're kind of limited from that point of view. But in my world, and I would think your world, we, the programmers, should come in and say, okay, that dinosaur, we have to talk to that dinosaur.
Right.
We might not want to talk to that dinosaur, but we have to. And I think one of the things that you said that it sparked me, I can remember, and I go back even further than you, when the first PC and Apple computer came out, I was working as a management consultant in Pete Marwick, and I went to the managing partner. I said, I think this is going to be big. I think Pete Marwick needs to have a PC consulting division where PCs can be on everybody's desk. I see it with all my clients. It would be wonderful. And he just kind of patted my head and said, oh, you pretty little thing. That's just a flash in the pan. It's never going anywhere. So I waited about 6 months and I went back and I said, hey, if you're not going to do it, I am. And so he goes, okay, go ahead. Your job's still here. When it doesn't work out, you can always come back. And that was 30 something years ago.
Yeah.
So it's just remarkable of how much things have evolved. And back then, if you wanted to build a program, it was a freaking project. My first programs were done on cards where you punch them. And if you got the comma in the wrong place, the whole program didn't work. Now I go into Chat GPT and I create a custom GPT and I just talk about it. I just say, hey, I need this, and this to happen. I don't have to write the code. I don't even have to figure out exactly what order it needs to be in. I don't have to do anything. So to me, it's like magic programming, and I absolutely love it.
It's absolutely, and and where the winning is going to happen, going forward is for someone like us, like people like ourselves, or I have a whole team of developers that I can access whenever I need to, and these guys are, some of the best developers in the world. They start with GPT. These guys are billing out at, like $1,000 an hour to build systems. They start with GPT, and what they're doing is they get the baseline and then they edit it.
Well, that's what we all do with AI.
Yeah, it's the adaptation to the tools, right? And that is where dinosaurs, if you will, like ourselves, we're dinosaurs in the industry, right? That's where we're going to win because we have the best of both worlds. We know how to do it by hand if we absolutely have to. I still jump in and customize CSS in Go High Level.
And I do too.
Because I just need to, right? Like it doesn't quite do what I want and I'm like, I can make this better. But I don't have to if I don't. No?
I'm sorry, Meg. But also, we understand the thinking that goes in behind it. And I think that's one of the things I work on with my clients in the coaching capacity when I'm trying to get them to understand it doesn't matter. Like, it's not your email sequence that's broken. It's your message. And it's not your funnel that doesn't work. It's that you don't have things that make sense.
Yes.
So that programming knowledge, the first thing we always used to do is a needs analysis, sit down with the user, see what they needed to do, follow it through, know the process, know what the whole step-by-step is of what you're trying to do. And now people just jump in at using the tools without that preparatory analysis and planning and clarity and strategy. They just jump in and then they call me because it's not working. And it's broken.
Exactly. Usually, what's so funny is in my like late 20s when I started transitioning out of actually physically building into this world of digital experience and focusing on the actual experience, end-to-end experience from every aspect, I used to piss the developers off because I would say the words are the most important part. It's words, user experience, and then literally everything else. And then aesthetics and all the other stuff. And people are like, wait, but that doesn't make any sense. We see with our eyes. Great. You can look at the prettiest thing in the world, but if it's broken or the words don't make sense, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how pretty it is. It doesn't.
No one's going to use it. No.
Yeah, I was very much ahead of the times when I was preaching all of this. And I used to go to conferences and talk about this all stuff all the time. And even with funnels or any type of technology or anything that you're doing, like even if you're building a piece of software stuff for someone and you're responsible for the user interface that someone is going to interact with, if the buttons don't make sense, if the layout is confusing, there's so many things that go into this world. So people are just jumping into creating websites and, like you said, creating emails, creating all of this stuff without even thinking how it affects the end user. They're usually thinking about themselves when they create it. If you think about yourself for the thing that you're creating, you're done on day one.
And how many times have you seen, I don't know, because I was they always called me the computer magic lady. Like I would just come in, they would just like fix it. Like this doesn't work. And literally 9 times out of 10, the problem was whoever developed the system never sat in the user's chair. Never talked to the user, never sat in the user's chair and answered the phone and had to use the interface, had to use the system that they built, because sitting back in their coding cubby, it sounded, this is the way it should be. Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter what it should be. You're not the person that needs to use it. I've solved that painfully for decades, and I put that into the work I do now. It doesn't matter what I think it should be. because I'm at a different way of looking at it than my client or my client's clients, because I'm building things sometimes that the interface isn't even for my client, it's for their clients. And I always put myself in their chair and I say, okay, now if I am Mary's client, Bob, what does Bob need? What is Bob trying to accomplish? What is Bob going to look for? And what is Bob going to be delighted with? And what's going to piss Bob off? And I take it from there.
Exactly. I always do the mom test, the mom or the grandma test. So my mom is 78 years old. If I'm building something new from scratch, like an experience that I send it to her, I'll send her a link. I'll send her whatever I'm going to, and I can say, can you use this?
Perfect.
If she can't use it, then it's broken and it needs to be fixed. Your baseline has to be, that when they say, the prompts we always put into GPT, and I'm sure you do this too, is write at a 5th grade reading level. It's not because you want your shit to sound stupid. It's because it needs to be as simple as possible for every human on the planet to understand, whether you're in 5th grade or whether you're 92 years old. Same goes with your digital experience. Same goes with your brand experience. Everything should be done as simple as possible. And what I've found over the years with leading development teams, because I've led some really big development teams and been in charge with them, and developers would get so frustrated with me because I'm like, nope, take it back. And that was why, because I brought in 2 user experience designers for every single development team I worked on, because they were the ones looking out for the customer. They were the ones, and the developers used to get really mad because they're developing code and it's great code, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. If you're doing something that makes your customer's life harder, then whatever you just did is a waste of time. One of the things and I bet you do this too, I always tell people, if it takes you 5 minutes longer, but it takes your end user 10 minutes less, you're winning. And people are like, yeah, but it's taking me more time. It doesn't, at this point of the game, it doesn't matter. Now, obviously my job, and your job as well, is to simplify it from both sides. But you never simplify a digital experience or a brand experience at the expense of the customer. I'm going to say that again for everyone who's listening, because I'm the queen of automation and I love to automate everything and I love technology. You never automate anything or build a system or a process and put it in place if it is going to negatively affect your end user. You don't do it, whether it saves you time or not. Because then you lose the customer and they are no longer your brand loyalist, which is the main thing.
And they won't use it. If you make their life harder, they'll just go around it. They'll either do it with a spreadsheet, or they'll do it manually, or they'll punt. They'll do something else. And
then they'll complain. And then they'll complain that your service or product is broken or doesn't work or whatnot. So always end user. And if you don't know what the end user wants, come talk to Phyllis and I, because we'll help you figure it out. Or, honestly, no offense to Phyllis or myself, but you don't even need us. Ask your customers.
That's what you should do. Because we don't know their customers either, Megan.
Yeah. Just flat out ask them. And if you're uncomfortable asking, well, you better get uncomfortable asking, because that's the only way. If your shit is broken, the only true way, you could hire Phyllis and she could spend hours and she could do all of the things that she does fantastically. If you don't specifically ask your customers at some point during that process where Phyllis is involved, it doesn't matter. She's going to be she's going off of a hypothesis, Google, ChatGPT search, or whatever research, method she has. There's no research methodology better than asking your existing audience. None. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And especially, that's true in general.
Yeah.
But specifically, if I'm working with a client and we are building things that are going to be in their client journey for their audience, their prospects, their clients, and then post when they're no longer a client, but you still want to keep that nurturing relationship going, it doesn't really matter what I think or what my client thinks. What matters is, what does their audience see, and how does their audience feel, and how does their audience interpret what we think is so good. It's good for us, but we are not in their chair. So that's the answer, is always sit in the client or the customer's chair and make sure that it's good for them, and know that just because you built it, they won't necessarily come. They will probably.
Yeah, exactly. My boss, I was lucky enough to work with, actually remind me a lot of her. And my main corporate experience and journey, I was lucky enough to have a boss who was a woman, who was a tech woman. And she, like I said, she reminds me so much of you. She was like, she was about 10 years older than me. And I mean, think about it. Me in my late 20s, I get this big, huge, my first big corporate gig, and I'm a woman in technology, and it's like, oh, look at the cute little girl in the room, right? And here I get this woman as a boss who's lead, and I was like, this is the most amazing. And so she turned into one of my best mentors. But she used to always say, because she was also more, I was more tech, she was more marketing, right? And she helped me merge the two. But she would always say, like, if you build it, they're not coming. Like, if you don't market it, if you don't tell people about it, if you don't talk about it, it's the same thing we talk about in brand build. If you're not out there on LinkedIn, we're all obsessed, talking about it every single day, talking about what you do, who you are, like, no one's going to know. They're not just going to magically show up, right? Do you remember rage clicks? I have to ask you this. As you were talking, there used to be, rage click tracking software.
Yes.
Do you remember that? Oh my God. It was so much fun watching this and then turning around and showing it to the development team. Like, guys, there's like an 80% rage click on this thing. It's not working. Well, what do you mean? Look, people are stuck. They're like, click, 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 click. And the thing was like on fire. There's like red all over the screen. And I was like, it's not working. Like, we used to track all of that fun stuff. And I feel like now some of that, I mean, all of that stuff still exists at a corporate level. You can buy it at an enterprise level. But for these smaller businesses and stuff like that, some of that tracking isn't there. And that stuff was so helpful when we were building experiences,
Absolutely.
And it stinks that some of that stuff is out of reach for smaller businesses that can't afford it, right? Because when you get up to that corporate level, it's like,
But I think, Megan, I agree. There is a lot of stuff that is out of reach for small businesses.
yeah.
But what I love about AI is that it has raised the bar so high
Yeah.
for small businesses. It gives small businesses, to be honest, after working with large businesses, what I like about small businesses is we could be sitting in the room, make a decision, and start working on it in an hour. In
And
a
they
corporate
appreciate
thing,
you
you got
more.
to go through a board and a committee and up the chain and down the chain, and everybody's got to give you their 2 cents. And meanwhile, 6 months later, when you can finally start, it's an old idea.
And outdated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's one of the pluses of working with small businesses, because they have a really powerful way of just taking action when they know what action they need to take. And because there's not a board of directors and a committee and
Yeah.
this and that, it happens quickly. And now with AI, and especially with ChatGPT being able to build custom GPTs, it takes so little effort to create so much impact. And I think that's where small businesses are really, really going to surge. And I think big business, large companies are kind of shying away from it because they don't have the control over somebody building a custom GPT
Yeah.
that they have over a whole, when you go through a development project, there's like 88 steps before anybody starts coding,
And and honestly, they don't know what they don't know, right? And so, unfortunately, there's so many silos and so many layers and so many levels when you're in a corporation size. I do want to clarify one thing. When she says small business, guys, for anybody who's listening, it doesn't necessarily mean dollars. When we say small business, we're not talking dollars. We're talking team size. So, like, the best teams to work with are, like, I would say 5 or less. Some people say 10 or less. I don't even want to go that big. I'd say like 5 or 6 or less, because then you're talking to the owners and you're building relationships. Now, this being like, that's the other thing that AI is doing for small teams. It is making it so much easier to achieve your revenue goals with a small team and AI and the right consulting partners, because of the way that AI is so powerful. When you find somebody who knows how to use it correctly, it amplifies your team to 50 people, even though you only have 5 people. And it's such a great way to grow your business. So I think the big companies are having issues because they've already grown this massive behemoth of a company, right? So I know they're all looking to try and figure out, right? They're not stupid. They're trying to figure out how to adapt AI into their process, but they're doing it in a different way that's, in my opinion, scary. because they're going to use AI like for manufacturing to run machines. They're going to use it. They're going to try to, because they're all about the bottom line, which, yes, I understand we all have to be about we obviously, right? We don't want to eat ramen noodles for the rest of our lives. Got it. But they're so about the bottom line and EBITDA and all this other stuff that they're looking at replacing resources with AI. And to do that effectively, again, it goes back to what we talked about in manufacturing at the top of the hour. It's going to cost them a lot of money to do that, to replace an entire team or an entire machine or entire something with an AI that's functioning. Because they're still going to, the thing that they're thinking is it's just going to replace it. You still need a person. You're going to need a team of people to run the AI at that level, right? And that's
now you've changed everything else. So now, like that, going back to that analogy with the machine. Okay, yes, that machine requires 8 people to do whatever it is that machine does. Is there a machine that could run with one person and it would all be automated with AI? Yes.
Probably.
But if you do that, now all of the things that feed into that process and all the things that are downstream from that process, they have all been impacted. And a lot of times they don't even stop and think about that. They just go, oh yeah, we're just going to bring that in there. And they break everything else.
The trickle down theory, right? Yes. Like it all trickles down, right? Like they don't look at, but that's a really great point because it goes back to what you were saying earlier in this episode was, so many people and businesses and brands don't look at the entire picture. You have to look at the end-to-end experience, every system, every process, every single thing you do in your business. And this is why I end up focusing on operations, because the entire operations will be affected by that one thing, like you just said. And if you don't look at what it's going to touch and affect across the board, then it just becomes a bigger problem. And I don't know, that it's crazy to me that the larger corporations are taking so much longer to like figure it out, but I get it, right? Like it's also easier to just continue down the road of what they're doing, right? Versus,
and we're focusing on where robotics and manufacturing and production types of AI equipment and machines. But let's bring it back to the admin, into the office, and into the marketing and the sales and all of the G&A functions that are up above before the gross profit. Those functions, I always say when people say, oh, I'm going to lose my job to AI, I'm like, no, you're going to lose your job to somebody who knows how to use AI. That's who you're going to lose your job to, because there will always be a need for humans, because that's where the creativity, that's where the thinking, that's where the personal relationships come in. So there will always be a need for humans, but the humans who know how to use these new tools are the ones that are going to be in demand. And I venture to say they're going to make more money because they're going to be able to eliminate all these other people that were kind of doing half of a job, but they needed to do that half a job. Well, now that half a job is being done by a custom GPT or another AI assistant or an agent or something. Exactly. But somebody's got to be there to manage that and to keep up with current things. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to see a major shift in the way G&A expenses are handled for all companies. We're talking originally small companies, but I think we're going to see it for large companies too.
Absolutely, 100%. I wrote this really fantastic LinkedIn post. I think it was last week. It might have been the week before, but it was all about this topic. And it was talking about, because you've seen my content. I always throw out the contrarian views on this stuff, right? Like, because everybody and their mother knows that I'm obsessed with AI and automation and all these things. But I always have to talk about the side of things that we're talking about right now. I put this post up there like, hey guys, that's great. I'm super glad that you're like jumping on the AI bandwagon. Here's the thing that you're forgetting about. All of the people behind the scenes that make AI work, right? All of the people that are sitting at OpenAI checking to make sure like the machines are running correctly. All of the people I have an Andrea who helps with writing chat GPTs and stuff. People behind the AI still. And it's going to be like that for a long time. Now, you can get super fancy and have AI write the other AI and talk to each other and do all that. But you still need a human for when that breaks or when it's not following prompts correctly. So there's all these things that...
Well, also, Megan, you need the human that knows the client. Like, yes, AI can do the ideal client and can talk about the ideal or the average coach or the average consultant or the average salesperson or the average lawyer or accountant or
Yep.
whatever, but that's not your client.
And
So
you still have
that
to feed the client
relationship
information
is
to the
human.
machine. Yeah.
Yeah.
You still have to feed, like we were talking about this the other day in Brandbo. The more information you feed the AI bot or the chat GPT or whatever you're using, the better. The only way to do that is for there to be a human involved. We have to have conversations like this. We have to record those conversations. We have to have, and then we download the transcripts and we take as much information as we possibly can get, and then we put that into the GPTs that we're using or the bots or whatever tool you're using, doesn't even matter. But there's still a person feeding the information that the computer needs to use to make it work, right? So adapt, people. It's not going to replace your job. It will
But
only
it
replace
is
your job
going
if you
to
don't go
change
out
your
and
job.
learn. Yeah. It's only
It's
going to
going to
replace your
change your
job
job.
if you don't go out and learn. So go out, take some classes, learn how to write some prompts. Just go out and even just play with ChatGPT. You don't even necessarily need to just start writing it, asking it to do things, start seeing how it works. But I highly recommend everyone, and again, we talked about this in Brandbuilt the other day, I highly recommend everyone do some machine learning because it is still a computer and it is very weird having a conversation with ChatGPT. Of course, you can just ask it normal things and it will, but if you want to get really detailed and really advanced, go out and take some learning courses and go out and there's some simple like machine learning courses. I know like Northwestern has some, but there's also some on and I'm totally drawing a blank. You might know the name. What's the learning?
Oh, and I'm drawing a blank too. I know it's the one where everything is like
the learning websites that are out there. There's a bunch of like entry level basics, like machine learning, like how to prompt, how to talk to ChatGPT, how to talk to a computer. There's like some of those really good courses out there that you, like everyone, I think, that wants to stay in this world and grow should go out and take, even just the basics. And maybe you don't have to necessarily be the person doing it, but if you know enough to be dangerous, then you can hire the right person to do it. And that still makes you valuable because then you're a valuable leader. The leader who knows how to hire the right people to get the job done, just as important as the person getting the job done. So anyway, we could soapbox about this forever. I'm sure
I know.
Phyllis and I could sit here and talk about AI for 2 hours, but we're not going to. We are at time, and I want to be respectful of your time and everybody else's time. So please let everyone know how they can get a hold of you, where they can find you. Obviously, LinkedIn. We'll drop your LinkedIn profile link into the show notes and stuff. But if there's other ways that they can get a hold of you, let's drop that now.
Also, I'm on Facebook and I'm on LinkedIn. In my LinkedIn bio, there's a link on my Facebook profile. If you click on the banner at the top, there's a link.
Perfect. And we'll drop, like I said, we'll drop that in the show notes, people, so people can direct link to you. And this was such a good conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. And everybody,
You're welcome, Megan.
This was so good. Everybody, remember, technology is only good when it works, and we will see you next week. Bye, everybody.